O my trade, it is the rarest one, simple shepherds, all my trade is a sight to see. For my customers I tie, and take them up on high, and waft them to a far country. The room was silent when he had finished the verse, with one exception, that of the man in the chimney corner, who, at the singer's word, chorus, joined him in a deep bass voice of musical relish, and waft them to a far country. Oliver Giles, John Pitcher the dairyman, the parish clerk, the engaged man of 50. The row of young women against the wall seemed lost in thought, not of the gayest kind. The shepherd looked meditatively on the ground, the shepherdess gazed keenly at the singer. And with some suspicion, she was doubting whether this stranger were merely singing an old song from recollection, or was composing one there and then for the occasion. All were as perplexed at the obscure revelation as the guests at Belshazzar's feast, except the man in the chimney corner, who quietly said, second verse, stranger, and smoked on. The singer thoroughly moistened himself from his lips inwards, and went on with the next stanza as requested. My tools are but common ones, simple shepherds, all my tools are no sight to see. A little hempen string, and a post whereon to swing are implements enough for me. Shepherd Fennel glanced round. There was no longer any doubt that the stranger was answering his question rhythmically. The guests one and all started back with suppressed exclamations. The young woman engaged to the man of 50 fainted halfway, and would have proceeded, but finding him wanting in alacrity for catching her, she sat down trembling. Oh, he's they, whispered the people in the background, mentioning the name of an ominous public officer. He's come to do it. 'Tis to be at Casterbridge jail tomorrow, the man for sheep stealing, the poor clockmaker we heard of, who used to live away at Shottsford and had no work to do, Timothy Summers, whose family were starving, and so he went out of Shottsford by the high road, and took a sheep in open daylight, defying the farmer and the farmer's wife and the farmer's lad, and every man Jack among them. He, and they nodded towards the stranger of the deadly trade, is come from up the country to do it because there's not enough to do in his own county town. And he's got the place here now, our own county man's dead. He's going to live in the same cottage under the prison wall. The stranger in cinder grey took no notice of this whispered string of observations, but again wetted his lips. Seeing that his friend in the chimney corner was the only one who reciprocated his joviality in any way, he held out his cup towards that appreciative comrade, who also held out his own. They clinked together, the eyes of the rest of the room hanging upon the singer's actions. He parted his lips for the third verse, but at that moment another knock was audible upon the door. This time the knock was faint and hesitating. The company seemed scared. The shepherd looked with consternation towards the entrance, and it was with some effort that he resisted his alarmed wife's deprecatory glance, and uttered for the third time the welcoming words, "Walk in." The door was gently opened, and another man stood upon the mat. He, like those who had preceded him, was a stranger. This time it was a short, small personage, of fair complexion, and dressed in a decent suit of dark clothes. "Can you tell me the way to?" he began, when, gazing round the room to observe the nature of the company amongst whom he had fallen, his eyes lighted on the stranger in cinder grey. It was just at the instant when the latter, who had thrown his mind into his song with such a will that he scarcely heeded the interruption, silenced all whispers and inquiries by bursting into his third verse.